everybody? Here we are again. Today I decided to take the SRT-4 out, put some miles on it, and enjoy this nice sunny day we got here going on. Just got back from going to the Bay Area. The first time I'd been to the Bay Area in 9 weeks, and went in just to get the Charger serviced. Wife's car was past due. We were going to take it in mid-March to have the oil change and service done, but then of course the shelter in place happened, so we didn't get to take it in. And so finally we decided we'd take it in today, went in, got that done, and so that's one thing off our list. I gotta say, it's pretty weird going to the Bay Area. Haven't been there, like I said, in 9 weeks, and of course it was nice not having any traffic on the road to get in there. The traffic when we went this morning was equivalent to what it normally is when I go to work at like 2 in the morning. So from that standpoint, it was great. And I'm really glad we went, because sitting on the showroom at Normandin Chrysler, which by the way is the only dealership I deal with, because it's family owned and operated, and great customer service, and the people there are they're just great. And but sitting there on the showroom floor, they had a new 50th anniversary Challenger in the frostbite blue, and it was a Scat Pack wide body. The car was absolutely gorgeous. I wanted that car so bad. This was the first new Challenger I've seen that I've been like, you know what, I would buy that car right now. And I was tempted. I was really thinking about it, but I've got some other things on my mind that I want to be purchasing in the future, and so it just didn't make sense to go ahead and make that purchase today, so I didn't buy it. But if anybody's looking right now for 50th anniversary Challenger in the frostbite blue, go ahead and check out Normandin Chrysler, because they've got one right now, and it is an awesome car. So that brings us to what we're doing today. Is since we're taking the neon out, I figure we should talk about it a little bit. And as you know, this is the third one that I've owned, and I love these cars so much. They're just a blast to drive, and it's just an incredible car. But there are a few things that I don't care for. So today's video, we're going to talk about the top 5 things about the SRT-4 that I hate. So for starters, the rear windows. I've got 2 problems with the rear windows. The first is the fact that they don't roll all the way down. Now, of course, that's because structurally they can't. There's no room. The rear door is shaped in such a way to clear the rear wheel that you can't roll the window all the way down. So I understand at that point that the window doesn't roll all the way down. But the other thing that I really don't care for is the fact that they're manual roll-up windows in the back. The front are power windows. Make all 4 power windows. It just makes sense. So that's unfortunate, but again, it wasn't going to stop me from buying the car. It just means the people who sit in the back have to use their arm muscles to roll the windows down. So from there, the next thing on the list, number 2, are the brakes. Now, overall, they work pretty good, and they're a nice shiny red paint color, but they're not Brembos. Most SRT products came with Brembo brakes from the factory, and it would have been nice if the SRT-4 followed suit and also it had Brembo brakes. Now, I understand with the price point, keeping the car cheap and stuff, that definitely having Brembos would have added to the cost. And right now, Stop Tech offers a 4-piston brake upgrade kit. The downside to their upgrade kit, though, is you have to go to an 18-inch wheel. The stock 17s won't clear because of the diameter of the rotor. So that's a bit of a bummer, but it's not going to stop me from doing an upgrade to the Stop Techs in the future, because they're just a great upgrade for these cars. Now, number 3 on the list is the front suspension design. Most of your front suspension designs include a upper and lower control arm that attach to the wheel knuckle. Well, not on the SRT-4. There's no upper control arm at all. Instead, the top of the wheel knuckle attaches to the bottom of the strut directly. And this puts, of course, extra stress right there on the strut, and it reduces your adjustability in the suspension options, and it's just not the most convenient design for performance applications. It gets the job done, and I understand the car was not originally intended to be a high performance vehicle, but at the same time, it would have been nice if there was an upper control arm as well for some of the extra adjustability and geometry for the front suspension. Now, number 4 on the list, this one comes with the maintenance of these cars, and replacing the timing belt and water pump. The way this thing is designed, the 2.4 liter is so big that the packaging became an issue, and it's a nightmare to replace the timing belt. And you actually have to jack the engine up about a foot to be able to get enough clearance to be able to pull the motor bracket out to be able to gain access to the timing belt and the water pump, as well as the fourth motor mount. And so it's just a total pain, and you get a little nervous jacking the engine up a foot in order to get clearance. It's not a fun feeling. And I did it when I first got this car because I didn't know how old the timing belt was or the water pump was, and I didn't want to take the chance. And so, yep, I jacked the engine up and dealt with it, but it was one of the least favorite things I've ever had to do working on any cars. And so it's just not fun. So from there, number 5 on my list is probably the worst thing on the list, the thing I hate the most. And that's how these poor cars have been just absolutely trashed and abused over the years. And the cars were cheap from the get-go. I mean, when Dodge announced this car, it was the cheapest car under $20,000. And so, of course, that meant a lot of people could go in and buy a high-performance vehicle and just thrash on it. And, of course, now 15 years later, you've got these cars that have just been utterly wrecked. I mean, this thing, it's so sad to see how many of these cars have been totaled, have been abused, have just been thrashed, and it's really sad. I mean, granted, I totaled the first one I got in a nasty rainstorm, so I get it, it happens. But overall, these cars have just been utterly destroyed, and it was so bad that it literally took me over a year of searching before I found this one that I currently have that was clean and not destroyed. So it's unfortunate, but that's the reality we're in. I mean, in the long term, if we're looking at a collectability standpoint and stuff, the fact that this was a low volume production car in the first place and a high performance car, and having even less of them still around is probably a good sign for like the next 10 or 15 years for the prices to go up. Not that that's a big factor when I consider buying these cars, because I just bought this car because I fell in love with this car ever since they first came out back in 2003, and I had my first one in 2004. But it's definitely something to consider, is long-term value of these cars. And so, of course, I think it's going to result in the value going up long-term. But who knows? Time will tell, of course. But that's pretty much what I've got for today's story. And I hope you guys were entertained, found this information somewhat useful, especially if you're considering buying one. And you definitely want to keep an eye on what maintenance has been done on it. And there's a reason it costs so much at the dealership or any mechanic to go ahead and do the timing belt and water pump replacement, because it's a pain. It's a real pain to do that work, and it's definitely a risk to do it, because if you don't get that engine jacked up just right, it could slip off of the jack or whatever you're using and cause some real damage. And it's usually about 75,000 miles, I think, is about when the water pump starts to leak. At least it did on my first one. And then timing belt should replace, of course, typically every 90,000 miles or so. But that's all I got for today. If you liked today's video, go ahead and give us a like, hit that thumbs up button down below. And as always, if you want to be kept up to date of my future videos, go ahead and smash that subscribe button down below. And don't forget to ring the notification bell as well, so that way YouTube will notify you of all the videos that I upload in the future. And as always, I will see you the next video.